as I said, Dzogchen were like, the Dzogchen snobs kind of thing. So Dzogchen is a sudden path. Mahamudra is a gradual path. It's a much kinder path. So in Dzogchen, as I mentioned before, you're introduced, you recognize, you train in the correct recognition of rigpa. And slowly, 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 you go through the different stages of the practice of cutting through. And then, depending upon one's stability in trekchö practice or cutting through practice, one then moves on to the 4 different experiences or visions of thögal practice. Mahamudra is something that, how it's been explained to me by Kyabshe Tukor Rinpoche. So you start out in Mahamudra with mind, and then slowly, slowly, slowly you separate rigpa and mind, or sem and rigpa. And you do that through the gradual path of the 4 yogas of Mahamudra. So one starts out with one-pointedness, which is shamatha practice. And according to one of the great teachers of Drupakar Pema Karpo, there's like 18 different stages of shamatha practice. So the shamatha practice is then really calming the mind, and it works with an object or without an object, and it gets much more subtle. Within the yogas, then there's the lower, the middle, and the greater of each one of those 4. So there's 12 different aspects of it. And the idea is working with the teacher very closely, which unfortunately these days doesn't happen so much. So you go through that. Then once you've reached the greater shamatha, you go to trekchö, or simplicity. And again, has lower or lesser, medium, and greater. By how it's been said, according to Dzogchen, by that particular time, you're investigating who the meditator is and actually coming to an understanding. And there's a lot of different investigations, which also we do in Dzogchen during the preliminaries for trekchö, for cutting through. But here it's very much delineated, and I believe at the medium simplicity, one's introduced to mind nature. But again, still moving away. Once one gets to one taste, which has, again, lesser, medium, and greater, you're pretty much on the path of non-distraction at that point. And when you get to non-meditation, which has lesser, greater, and lesser, medium, and greater, then at that particular point, then it's equal to the 4th vision, or the Chunizesar, the kind of exhaustion of dharmas in the 4 experiences of thögal. So at the end of the day, in Mahamudra, Madhyamaka, and Dzogchen, it's the same enlightenment. It's just how you got there, what path you took to get there. That's the only difference. You're going to the same place. It's just a matter of what one is karmically connected to or not. We're talking about a non-conceptual, rigpas and non-conceptual awareness. So I'm assuming in sutra, just like in zazen, it's mental. You're trying to control your mind, and then any thought held in mind is not Dzogchen. We don't go in to Dzogchen meditation and say, well, now I'm going to be egolessness. One trains in that instant of recognition again and again and again and again. And so then any kind of, the most key point is knowing when one's distracted. So I wouldn't say there was any kind of meditation for that except non-distraction. Non-meditation, that's the key word in Tibetan. Mugon, yingwame, not distracted, not meditating. But it's a training. It's like anything else. I mean, what I always like to talk about is like, look at just take an ice skater, take a football player, take Beckham. I mean, when he started, how many times did he kick that bloody ball? Take a gymnast. They start 4 years old, 3 years old. They do it 8-10 hours a day till they're 15, 16, 17, 18. Pianists, any kind of artist, anyone who has an instrument, they don't think twice about it. It's just we as meditators kind of are like, oh, that takes a lot of time. Hello? You don't perfect something without training. And so that's also another word the word for training and the word for meditation sound very similar in Tibetan. Buddha nature, Buddha essence, intrinsic awareness, rigpa, sugata garba, it's all the same. And that is the essence of enlightenment which we possess. And so we're enlightened, but we don't know it, and we are obscured by temporary obscurations. And that's what we work with on the path. The ground and the fruition are the same. They're not exactly the same. The ground is the basis, which we have not recognized, which we have strayed away from. So we have now moved into the path, which is confusion. And the confusion on the path is cleared away by all those different practices that we talked about. So from the Dzogchen perspective, then the view or the ground is introduced as like a tent, but then the practices are then the staircase that you go progress upon. And then once one has purified the obscurations which prevent us from realizing the ground, we reach the fruition. So there's really no reason to have low self-esteem because we are already Buddhas, we just don't know it. So the good news is we're Buddhas. The bad news is that we don't make use of it. We haven't been able to take it in our hands and then be a benefit to ourselves and benefit to others. And so that really is the whole basis of the path. And so even from an intellectual perspective, people should know that we have the Buddha nature, we have rigpa, and we can know it. We can experience it. We can train in it. That is the key point. And we may not be, primordially any more enlightened, but we can become re-enlightened. So it's a little bit like knowing where you're going when you put something into Google Maps. You have to know where you're starting from, and you have to know where you're going. And so the path is going towards what already we possess, but just don't take hold of it.